Hey kids, Sierra here. How's it going? Hi. Listen, I am going to teach you something today. We're gonna do a little electrical. Yesterday, well, it was like last night or something. My power shut off in the house, in half of the house. All the lights went out, and I was like, "Oh, what the happened?" And they all went out in a whole string, like the bathroom lights, the bedroom lights, the office light. So generally when that happens, you know it's not... I'm an electrician, by the way, licensed electrician, just so you know. Hi, Princess Electrician. So I'm going to tell you how to troubleshoot this for girls that don't know much about things, so you don't have to call somebody late at night and feel like you can't get your lights back on and you need to light candles and bullshit. I'm going to tell you what to do. So what you do, listen, when everything goes out, that means a circuit popped in your panel. Your panel is generally located either in a closet somewhere if you've got an old house, a closet like outside your bathroom or in a closet somewhere, or if it's in a new house, it's outside like mine. So I knew it was a circuit breaker because a bunch of different lights went off. And generally... So we're going to go outside. So generally, with these things, kids, electricity, when they run it in your house, is divided between lights and outlets. Usually lights are one and outlets are a whole nother one. So you come on outside and you look for your panel. Because if you pop the circuit, that means that there's too much draw or there's a short in the circuit. Too much draw meaning that, let's say you had everything on in your house and then you plugged in the vacuum cleaner and then all of a sudden everything popped. So that's too much draw on a particular circuit. If it was a 15 amp circuit breaker and you then were drawing 20 amps, for example, because you added 5 amps by plugging in the vacuum cleaner, it will pop because it can't handle that amount. The wires are too small and you don't want the wires to heat up too much. So the circuit breaker controls the heat, and it also... If there's a short at one of your devices, like an outlet or a switch, it will pop also when it senses something wrong. Let's say, I can't think of a big word for it. Hi! So here's my service panel. I did this at night the other night with a flashlight, and I tried to record it, but I couldn't do it at night. So you come on out here, these open up. It's not always looking like that, it's more like this. You open up, and it will not, in general, be open like this. It has a dead plate. That's the dead plate there with my tools and the dead plate. So this is up there, and it tells you, for example, the kitchen, bedroom, living room, things like that. It's usually labeled to tell you which circuit it applies to. So in this case, when that circuit popped last night, it took out my bedroom and bathroom outlets and lights. In that case, it was a 15 amp circuit breaker. This one here. Can we do this like this? I'm going to put this thing on my head. How funny is this? So you've got a couple options. You can flip that back on, but that doesn't solve the problem. There's a problem. So I came out here, I flicked it back on, and went back inside and was like, what happened? And then went back to normal, and then it popped again. That's when you know you got a problem. I came out here bewildered to throw it again, and in fact, the whole dead plate was hot. It was hot, and the circuit breaker itself was hot. So I figured, okay, we got a problem, Houston. So when the circuit breaker's hot, that generally means you've got a loose wire. So I took the dead plate off, and I tested the wire. And that was loose. And I could tell it was loose because I could pull it out a little bit. It was off, so I could pull it out a little bit, and I used tools, insulated needle nose pliers, to pull on it a little bit. And then I could tell it was loose, so I was like, yay, that's the problem. It needs to be tight, because if it's loose, energy begins to transfer between the metal of the circuit breaker and the metal in the copper of the wire. And if there's space, there's an arc, there's a little bit of electricity going like that. That heats everything up. Instead of flowing through, it begins to operate at that point and heat things up. And it was getting very hot. And the circuit breaker is meant to save you from an explosion or a fire by tripping it and cutting the power off from access. These always end up needing to be tightened over time, girls. So this is very common to happen in a house if you've never addressed it before. It's something that you can easily fix. So I came out here, I pulled the wire, I loosened that nut, I pulled the wire out, I stripped it. Well, I cut the burnt, and you could tell the end of the plastic was melted, and it was slightly burnt. The metal tip was burnt, or the copper. So I cut it off, stripped the wiring, pulled it a little bit, put it back in. Yay! Turned it on, and it worked! Are you kidding me, kids? You got to tighten it really well, and you see how nicely everything is in there. It's scary. You don't want to touch much in here. Let me show you what's actually really bad for you. You see that those bars in the back there, those two bars, those carry the electricity from your main. This comes from the power from outside comes into your main circuit breaker. This is a 100 amp panel. So I've got a 100 amp circuit breaker that the power comes into. If I want to work on this and de-energize that bar, those two bars, I turn the main circuit breaker off. That would take all the power off to the house and allow you to work on anything in the house, including this panel, because there's no power coming to it. There is power, however, in these. See how these are protected there? That's got wiring coming in from here, a larger gauge wire coming into that 100 amp, and that is live, but it's separated from the rest of this part of the panel, which is the house service part. Anyway, so that's electricity, kids! So I flipped the switch, went back inside, and it all worked. So Sierra's an electrician, so she knows how to do these things, but kids, you can troubleshoot this for yourself too, and all it took was a screwdriver. One thing you need to know when working around electricity is you need insulated tools. You never touch, you don't hold on to metal when you're touching anything electric. Behind the plastic, you make your movements. You try to turn off the power where you can. Always turn the main off, or make sure that the circuit that you're working on, that circuit breaker's off. In this case, it had popped, so it was off. So I unscrewed it, reattached it, screwed it in really hard, and then put it back on. I mean, let it cool down a little bit. Put it back on, and everything worked. So, yay! That's electricity, kids. Princess is an electrician. Now you are, too. There's other little Tranny tips I can give you about how to do things. So, I'll fill you in on some plumbing and basic electrical stuff. But if your main circuit breaker pops, and also I went around to all the outlets inside the house and felt the wall and felt the outlet to see if there was any heat coming. And then I came outside and I knew that this was the problem. And then when I addressed it and looked at it, I could tell that the end had been damaged and the heat was occurring and there was an arc, and I fixed it. And it's been working fine. So don't feel daunted, kids. Sometimes problems are easy. Just a screw. Sometimes something just needs to be screwed a little harder. So, love you, kids! Homes are fun. Kisses. Princess loves you. Bye.